They survived the Great Depression with nothing, and what they knew is exactly what we've forgotten. If you're here for serious history and practical survival knowledge, you're in the right place. Battlefield of Survival exists for people who want to understand how past generations endured real collapse, not theory. If you value this kind of deep, usable history, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave a comment with what lesson you think modern society is most unprepared for. Now, let's get straight to it. Survival during the Great Depression was built on skills, not systems. When the Great Depression hit, there were no safety nets most people could rely on. Banks failed, wages vanished, and entire industries collapsed almost overnight. What kept millions alive was not optimism or government aid, but practical competence. People knew how to fix, reuse, grow, hunt, preserve, and improvise. A broken chair was not trash, it was firewood, spare parts, or something to be repaired. Clothing was patched repeatedly. Tools were maintained for decades. Today, most people cannot repair what they own, and many do not even own the tools required to try. So, applying this lesson now means, well, deliberately learning repair skills while times are stable. Fix your own furniture, learn some basic sewing, maintain your tools, and, stop assuming replacements will always be available. Food security back then depended on local production and preservation. Meat was stretched with stews, bones were boiled for broth, and honestly, nothing edible was wasted. Today, most households depend entirely on supply chains that honestly function on pretty thin margins. Applying this knowledge now means learning preservation methods before you actually need them. Start a small garden, even if it's kind of inefficient. Practice canning or drying food. And, learn how to cook meals that really stretch those ingredients. These are not lifestyle choices. They are, in fact, survival buffers. Community networks replaced formal institutions. People during the Great Depression survived by leaning on each other because, honestly, there was no alternative. Bartering was common, and skills were exchanged for food or labour. For instance, a mechanic might fix tools in exchange for eggs, while a seamstress would repair clothes for firewood. Communities shared information quickly about where work existed or where supplies could be found, making sure no one was left completely in the dark. Today, most people live isolated lives, relying on money rather than relationships. It's quite a shift, isn't it? In a crisis, money loses usefulness faster than trust. Applying this lesson, well, it really means building real-world connections now. Know your neighbours. Exchange skills casually. Create mutual dependency before hardship forces it. A resilient network is more valuable than a stocked pantry if that pantry becomes inaccessible. Financial survival was rooted in extreme caution and liquidity. Debt was lethal during the Great Depression. Families who survived prioritized staying liquid and avoiding obligations they could not escape. They distrusted banks after watching savings vanish. Cash was kept hidden, diversified, or converted into tangible goods. People understood that income was fragile. Today, modern life is built on debt and automatic payments. Applying this lesson does not mean rejecting modern finance, but, respecting its fragility. Reduce unnecessary debt. Maintain emergency cash. Own tangible assets that hold value independent of institutions. Learn to live below your means, not as discipline, but as insurance. Work was diversified, not specialized. During the Depression, relying on a single skill or employer was dangerous. Survivors took whatever work was available, often multiple forms at once. Applying this lesson means, cultivating secondary skills that generate value outside your main job. Learn manual trades, food production, mechanical basics, or, repair skills that remain useful regardless of economic conditions. Psychological resilience, believe it or not, mattered as much as material resources. Applying this lesson means deliberately practicing discomfort. Learn to live with less. Reduce dependence on constant stimulation and convenience. The ability to endure scarcity calmly is honestly a survival skill in itself. Knowledge was passed down because, survival depended on it. Children during the Great Depression learned practical skills early because families simply could not afford ignorance. Applying this lesson means, actively preserving and teaching skills within families and communities. Do not assume digital access will always exist. It's really important to learn from older generations while they're still here. And don't forget to write things down. Also, practice your skills regularly so they actually remain functional when you're under stress. There's, an uncomfortable truth about modern vulnerability. People today would struggle, not because conditions are harsher, but honestly because dependence is deeper. Infrastructure, technology, and specialization have created efficiency at the cost of resilience. Great Depression survivors lived closer to self-sufficiency by necessity. We live further from it by design. Applying their lessons now does not require abandoning modern life, but, reinforcing it with old knowledge that functions when systems fail. If this breakdown added value to your understanding of survival history, subscribe to Battlefield of Survival, share this video with someone who takes preparedness seriously, and leave a comment on which Depression-era lesson you believe matters most today. This knowledge stays relevant as long as uncertainty exists, and honestly, preserving it is part of survival itself.